a long battle, but Judicial Watch's heavy lifting forced the release of the Biden-Hur audio tapes. Let's begin with the big news about, as the title of the show tells you, the corruption surrounding Biden's criminality, the cover-up of his dementia, and obviously related is the terrible news about his cancer. No one wants anyone to have cancer, but because of the corruption surrounding other cover-ups of health-related and other issues of Biden, no one trusts the details of the cancer diagnosis in terms of the alleged timing. And first, though, all of this began in part with books, or a book by CNN's Jake Tapper and another author. I can't remember his name. He's always stuck there with Jake, and no one really cares what he says, more or less, as Jake Tapper is the focus of all the ire and interest. Detailing the cover-up of Joe Biden's dementia and addled state during his entire presidency. And the book has been roundly criticized because it pretends to tell us that, or pretends that no one really knew about this. And everyone was shocked and surprised when Joe Biden went south on the debate in terms of his inability to communicate. And many of us have been on it since the get-go. Even before the election, it was quite apparent he wasn't up to speed. And then we saw, not only during the campaign, but obviously during the debate, the complete diminishment of Joe Biden in his role as president because of his cognitive disability. And they're pretending that none of us saw it, and that no one in the media could have possibly have known what was going on. And that's just baloney. And I don't know what's worse, the cover-up or being told that, we were all shocked and surprised when we found the deliberate hiding of information about Joe Biden's inability to recognize friends, his inability to even run a cabinet meeting, his inability to track conversations, get confused about topics he's talking about in dramatic ways. And we all saw that in display time after time. And we were told by the same liberal media that is patting itself on the back for carefully exposing the cover-up. Of course, they're not at fault for it. It's just mind-blowing, the chutzpah there. And I talked about this issue in, I think it was this clip from my speech to CNP was the beginning of 2024. Let's run that clip, number 19.
Merrick Garland can't have it both ways on Biden's cognitive collapse. He should either reject the special counsel's conclusions that Biden is mentally unfit and prosecute him, or move forward with the vice president and fellow cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him.
Yeah, and that's the other part of the scandal. It was CPAC, obviously, not CNP, another group I work with. Judicial Watch sued for the audio of Joe Biden's interview with the Hur special counsel. And the Biden gang was desperate to keep it covered up. And they raised all sorts of frivolous objections, citing executive privilege, citing privacy, Joe Biden having privacy rights in his voice, President of the United States, and citing the danger of AI being used to manipulate the audio. I've been doing FOIA, Judicial Watch has been doing FOIA for 30 plus years. We've never seen anything like this. And the Trump administration was asked by the court when it came to town, are you going to change your mind on this? They said, we need 3 months. So imagine my frustration when just before that 3-month deadline ended, which was on May 20th of this, which was just a few days ago, they gave on the Friday before the deadline, now they being the Biden the Trump Justice Department or the Biden regime, I'm not sure, but it was leaked to them. Axios, a left-wing media publication, and it's pretty clear that it was designed to minimize the official release, which would have been to Judicial Watch through our FOIA lawsuit. But nevertheless, I talked about the issue because it was Judicial Watch that forced the release of the audio ultimately. Other folks filed lawsuits after we did, but we initiated the litigation and the request for information. And I talked about the release of the Biden-Hur audio on Fox News last week.
I did want to get you to weigh in on the Hur tapes that we're hearing now. What do you think?
Well, now we know why they covered it up. Now we know why Garland was willing to go to jail potentially to keep this information from Congress. Now, we sued for these tapes. Obviously, the Biden gang leaked it to get ahead of the official release that's likely to come as soon as next week. But they demonstrate that Biden was completely out of it. And we already found documents that the Biden White House had changed the transcript, edited it to hide this. This is what they were hiding. There's got to be accountability. Garland should be prosecuted by the Attorney General over the contempt he had for Congress to hide this.
We'll be sure and have you back when we get the rest of them, Tom Fitton. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate your time here tonight.
And as I said, I wasn't talking about this. Judicial Watch wasn't talking about this just last week. We've been talking about it for well over a year. The litigation began, I think, 14 months ago. Here's a video of me raising the same points here at Judicial Watch. Let's go to clip 6.
Hey everyone, Joe Biden is so desperate to keep those audio tapes of his special counsel interviews away from you and from Congress that he is asserting executive privilege in a way that's never been done before in American history. And of course, it's also designed to protect Attorney General Garland, who seems so intent on hiding these audio tapes that he's willing to go into contempt of Congress, joining Barack Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder as the only Attorney Generals found in contempt of Congress. I tell you, Judicial Watch is already now in federal court suing for these audio tapes. They have asserted privacy exemptions to hide the records from us. They're trying to protect Joe Biden's privacy. Now, on top of that, now they're asserting executive privilege. We've never seen anything like it before. The tapes must be devastating. Now, Judicial Watch is going to pursue this issue in federal court. Frankly, I think we'll get the audio tapes before Congress does at this rate. But we're here fighting for you, the American people, as Joe Biden tries to cover up his corruption.
Well, it was a long battle, but Judicial Watch's heavy lifting forced the release of the Biden-Hur audio tapes. And as has been detailed in the media, well covered, and it's all out there because of Judicial Watch, let's be clear. And I do give credit to the Justice Department for finally releasing the information, although they didn't really need 3 months to do so. The audio tape is a further demonstration of how addled Biden was and how criminal he was at the same time. Hiding records, remember, he was being questioned over hiding classified information, keeping classified information he had no right to under the law. And at the same time, this Justice Department was prosecuting Trump, and part of that prosecution involved the raiding of the man's home in Mar-a-Lago. And Biden got away free and clear. So this tape is frankly evidence of a cover-up, in addition to the evidence of his dementia they were so desperate to hide. Now, prior to this, to the Justice Department's credit, the Trump Justice Department's credit, Pam Bondi's operation, they released to us additional information showing the White House was trying to change the language of the transcript in order to cover up Joe Biden's dementia. And we had previously uncovered how they were trying to delete words from the transcript to cover up Joe Biden's dementia, because there are parts of the audio, and we'll play that for you soon, where he says I, and uses the sort of the verbal tics and interjections one often uses. We all use sometimes, but for those suffering from cognitive disability, it can be pretty dramatic. And the pauses. that was deleted from the transcript in a way that I think is potentially misconduct, to put it mildly. And all of that was uncovered by Judicial Watch's litigation separately. So we uncovered this effort to cover up and mess with the transcript, even as they're hiding the audio. So that cover-up really was only partial. And now the audio has been released thanks to your Judicial Watch. And here's the key section that everyone's interested in. You may not have heard it yet, so I'm going to play what has caused so much consternation over Joe Biden's cognitive disability.
So during this time when you were living in Chambers Road and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer booster shot or your book, where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. It's not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died? 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal. The genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish each other's sentences. And Bo, I used to go home on the train.
Okay, I think we heard enough here. Do you see why they did not want that audio out? And it wasn't released even after he dropped out of the campaign, because to release it would have raised questions about why he was even still in the presidency. I mean, that's the core issue. Why wasn't the 25th Amendment invoked? And it was apparent for everyone to see. And I tell you, if this audio had come out, there might have been push to remove him from office. And I understand people didn't want Kamala to be the president, but we can't have someone who's so completely out of whack. And remember, they attacked her, by the way, the special counsel, for communicating through his report. I think he should have prosecuted Biden. And as I said in the speech, if Garland didn't think that if Garland thought Biden was perfectly normal, why wouldn't he have been prosecuted? You can't have it both ways. So Hur gets attacked for concluding from that section and other sections of the transcript or the interview that Biden was, quote, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And so even though he committed the crime, he got a get out of jail free card. Now, I think the 25th Amendment should have been at least investigated, discussed, but Republicans in Congress dropped the ball. There's no doubt they dropped the ball. They had zero interest in doing it, and it was a dangerous situation for the American people. Now, let's go. I was on this weekly update show talking about it repeatedly. Here's one example from last year. Let's go to clip 20. There's a tweet I had on it. Let's talking about it. But these are the sorts of debates we should be having. I mean, I don't want to joke about his cognitive difficulties. I think it's disturbing. The left media pretending not to know what was going on, but it was readily apparent. Even looking at the transcript, it was readily apparent. And you had a conclusion of the Justice Department Special Counsel, tacitly endorsed by Garland, who didn't object to the conclusion. He was in a position to overrule it, that Biden was out of it. And now we're hearing news, it's terrible news. Biden has, at least what we're being told, difficulties, a severe advanced form of prostate cancer. And there isn't a doctor in the world who thinks it's credible or reasonable to believe that it was just diagnosed last week, as we're being told. Here you had an expert on, not Fox News, but the lunatic fringe that is MSNBC, raising a rather obvious point that Biden likely had prostate cancer for years.
Going to run for president for another 4 years. Obviously, the PSA exam is not 100% accurate, and I've never met a doctor that doesn't say you needed to do the PSA exam and also have the physical exam as well. I just find it hard to believe that any White House physician wouldn't say, okay, well, what my doctor and what every other doctor says, which is, okay, we've done the PSA test and that's fine, but at least once a year, we need to do a physical exam. Again, if you're just talking about a 78-year-old guy that is not running the free world, that's one thing. But if you're a White House physician and you have any man over 40 years old, are you not going to at least say, hey, once a year, like every other physician says, once a year, we need to do a physical exam and check? Because this is like one of the leading causes, one of the leading sicknesses for men over 40.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I think 100%. And, did they do a digital rectal exam to assess his prostate? Again, typically that's done in the presence of symptoms. To your point, he's the leader of the free world. Did they do it and not characterize it? It's hard to know. We're speculating here. I would say in an abundance of caution, probably be holistic and comprehensive. That would make sense. It is interesting to note that President Trump's, President Obama's, and President Bush II, in their most recent physicals, in their terms of office, obviously 2025 for President Trump, did comment on their PSA levels. And so they got screened while in office and they commented on it. It's not easy to access the most recent ones from President Biden. You can read summary articles. I couldn't access it on the archive site on the White House just before I came on. But according to those that were able to, there is not a report of a PSA test on the most recent physical that was read out for President Biden's last year in office. And so it's to say what was done, what was not done. You and I would be speculating, but the other three most recent occupants of the White House had it drawn and it was reported out in the case of.
That's really outrageous. And I have no doubt that Biden had, well, I shouldn't say I have no doubt. I think we're going to find, in my opinion, I could be wrong, it's possible technically, right? The doctors will tell you there's a chance, it's probably 1 to 10%, that they just discovered it now. And it was advanced as much as it was advanced because they hadn't done PSA testing, and no one had done any of the PSA or prostate cancer-related testing that would have been done for anyone else in his position, even given his advanced age. I think we're going to find, most likely, that he had prostate cancer when he was running for the presidency in the year 2020, and they withheld the information from us, just as they withheld his cognitive disability. His doctor has highlighted repeatedly how healthy Biden was, even though he hadn't done any cognitive tests on him. Now, any other person who exhibited and had public complaints about his cognitive abilities, it seems to me a doctor would have done a test. But this doctor was politicized, it's pretty clear, and a friend of Joe Biden. And as these books have reported, the media and the Democratic Party and the staff at the White House were desperate to keep the truth away from the American people about his health decline. Not only his cognitive decline, but I believe we're going to find out he was suffering from cancer for a good period of time. And just think about this. If they knew last year, while he was running for president, that he was basically likely to die from cancer in the next term, and they didn't disclose it to the American people, what a scandal that would be. And I tell you, when you have government officials in the White House lying repeatedly to other government officials, that raises some serious ethics questions and legal questions. Given his cognitive decline, as demonstrated in the audio of the Biden-Hur interview that Judicial Watch forced out of the government, you have to wonder if he was capable legally of making decisions. You know, I've highlighted how these pardons are likely improper because there's no pardon of any crime. There's a pardon for things someone might have done, but there's nothing listed. So that's really technically not a pardon in my view. But if the person who was signing the pardon was cognitively out there, I think it further highlights how the pardons are null and void. And Ed Martin, who is the pardon attorney and now the director of the weaponization working group over the Justice Department, has essentially raised those issues and wants to begin at least asking questions about it. And where is Congress on this? Are they going to have hearings bringing in all the Biden gang to ask them what they knew and when? I haven't heard that they are. Maybe they have, and I got lost in the news about the budget fight. But you know, and sometimes there's like a scandal that I know about, and I'm frustrated no one else knows about it. Or a few people who do know about it really don't want to do anything about it because it's not terribly public or interesting. Here is a scandal that virtually the entire country knew about, everyone in the city knew about, and no one in this awful city wanted to do a thing about it. So I'm not angry about some secret scandal that Judicial Watch uncovered and no one else really cares much about it. I'm talking about one of the most obvious collapses of a human being in the office of the presidency we've ever seen mentally. And our whole system failed us. And I'm convinced that, people talked about the pardons, right, and other things. But just think of what our friends or our enemies were thinking. And I've highlighted this repeatedly over the last few years as well. The world was watching. And I'm convinced that the war in Ukraine happened for several reasons, right? Significant reasons include, in my view, Biden's criminality and corruption. He was on the take from the Russians. He was on the take from the Ukrainians. And Russia thought he's in no position to tell us not to do anything there. And then the weakness of his foreign policy, driven in part by his cognitive decline, and plus the evidence of his cognitive decline. The president is the representative of the country abroad, constitutionally and practically. And so when the president is weak and in decline and unable to function, do you think our enemies don't notice that and don't take advantage? Of course they do. So yeah, I think the cover-up of Joe Biden's cognitive decline got people killed and placed Americans at risk, not only in Afghanistan, but subsequently in Russia. Who knows? The Hamas attack on Israel, that they see an opportunity, that Biden's out of it, let's try to take Israel out, and the administration is essentially headless, and there's nothing they can do anything, they won't be able to do anything in a aggressive way to react. And even if we are able to react in a way that protects our interests, first of all, the issue that caused the crisis may not have occurred if we were strong to begin with. But that can't be the standard. The standard has to be that the president's able to perform his duties. And if it's obvious he can't, our Constitution provides, through the 25th Amendment, a process for examining that. And the 25th Amendment, by the way, is hard to apply. I mean, there's got to be strong evidence in order for a president to be effectively removed. And even then, it's complicated to even keep him removed or basically deprived of his office for a period of time. So a lot of people failed this country in the last 4 years. The media, of course, they hate America, so that's not, of course they failed the country. The left, they hate the country, so they don't care if Biden was decrepit, because they had an opportunity to get their policies through as a result. Congress, once again, failed the country, both Republicans and Democrats. And I would argue both parties are continuing to fail the country. I mean, Trump's the only one who says anything sensible about this. But, Mike Johnson, he's got to get his investigative committees up. And I think this is a general issue I have about Congress. They don't seem very interested in doing much. I mean, I understand the budget was a big deal, this appropriations measure or reconciliation package. But Congress should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And so these corruption issues with Biden's corruption, personal corruption, his disability, and I don't think the disability was such that it absolved him of accountability for that corruption, but certainly it made it clear he shouldn't be in the office, in my view. The weaponization against American citizens and against Trump, the effort to kill and jail Trump, the censorship of Americans, the list goes on and on. Where's Congress on this? Now they're getting some documents, but this budget bill was passed, this appropriations measure. I'm not aware of any significant haircut to the FBI or to the Justice Department. Nothing in terms of, now it's a big bill, maybe there's stuff there I don't know about, but certainly it's not being promoted by the supporters of the legislation. Nothing on weaponization. And I tell you, it gets coming back to the beginning here. You wouldn't have these audio tapes but for Judicial Watch and our unrelenting pressure. And so much of what we know about the Biden corruption scandals were the result of Judicial Watch, just as so much of what we knew about the weaponization targeting Trump was because of Judicial Watch. As Biden was doing it, we were highlighting it, exposing it, telling the truth about it. And for that, we were punished I was subpoenaed. Judicial Watch was subpoenaed. They came to my home, the Biden FBI. And we're just not going to stop. We are not going to stop asking these tough questions, educating people about what we find, and demanding accountability from the government for misconduct. The American people have a right to know what their government was up to, and if they were up to no good, there's got to be accountability for that. And we're doing our best within our capacities, but we can't prosecute people. We can't cut budgets. And other folks need to step up too, and hopefully through our work and our leadership, they will begin to step up.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.